have to move.
Okay.
You're going to move that to this one right here.
Welcome to the Tuesday, September 17th, 2013 meeting of the Hot Springs Board of Directors. Tonight, our invocation will be led by Mrs. Joan Way and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand with me?
Let us pray together, please. Father, we're so grateful for this city, this amazing city that we all love so much, and that most of us live here. And we're so grateful to you, Father, for our city officials, and we honor our mayor here this evening. But mostly, Father, we lift up our board of directors to you, and we pray for them because they have such powerful, responsible decisions and choices to make that will affect our city and the people and their children and their children's children. And Father, we pray a spirit of agreement and that will bring peace and unity and harmony. And it would serve as an example to all of us here in our city. I'm reminded of the scripture from your word that's on the wall of the Fordyce bathhouse. And it declares, I will restore health unto you and heal you of your wounds. That's exactly what we're seeing in our city that you have such a great plan for. And as we stand on the shoulders of those who've gone before us, may each one of us, Father, be part of the solutions and never part of the problem, so that in the future we could be the examples for our children and our children's children, and they could see character, true character in our city built. We just love you and we thank you. In the name of Jesus, the name that's above all names. Amen and amen and amen. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I hereby call this meeting to order. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Davidson.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
McCabe.
Here.
Garcia.
Here.
Foley.
Here.
Carney.
Here. Okay. The first item of business is to consider the approval of the agenda. Directors, are there any corrections, additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, thank you. I move to amend the agenda by removing items 15 and 16 from the consent agenda and placing as the first items of new business for the purpose of, I had a couple of questions answered today, and I would like to get those comments on the record.
15th and 16th. Okay. There is a motion to move number 15 and 16 to the first two items of new business. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Hearing none. It is approved. Now, may I have a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
Second.
And a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The agenda is presented as amended. Okay. Next, is to consider the approval of the minutes of the board meeting held on September the 3rd, 2013. Are there any corrections, additions, modifications, or deletions to the minutes?
Move approval.
Okay. Hearing none, I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. The motion is adopted. Okay. In an effort to afford everyone an equal and orderly opportunity to address the items on tonight's agenda, I ask that each of our citizens adhere to a 3-minute limit on your comments. For your convenience, we will display a clock timer on the monitors above, and out of respect to all, that we ask that you adhere to that. While members of the board may have questions of the speakers, I ask that any general comments be reserved for the board discussion after all the speakers have been heard. And we also ask that you silence your cell phones, and please refrain from any disruptions of the meeting. No applauding, booing, cheering, dancing, whatever you want to do, just be still and be quiet. And should you need to leave prior to the end of the meeting, we ask that you do so quietly. After your item is taken care of, we still have other business to take care of. So we ask that you please leave quietly without talking with your neighbor. And we appreciate all of you being here tonight and your interest in our city. At this time, we have a guest to be recognized, and I'm going to call Melinda Gassaway to come up to the platform, and we have a proclamation to read for you, but first, Mr. Foley would like to introduce you to the group.
I've worked with Melinda for many years, and this is the first opportunity I have had and the honor to introduce Melinda to the community. I doubt that there are very many people here who do not know of her contributions. Melinda Gassaway graduated from our own Hot Springs High School and received her Bachelor's of Journalism degree from the University of Missouri at Columbia in 1965. Her first reporting job was with the Burbank Daily Review in Southern California, after which, those were the 60s for California, mind you, after which she joined the lifestyle section of the Daily Breeze in Torrance, California. She then worked in New Orleans and on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Melinda returned home and has stayed here since 1974 and joined the editorial staff of the Sentinel Record, serving as reporter, lifestyle editor, and associate editor before being promoted to executive director in 1980. She has won numerous professional awards in her columns and editorials on local issues and has been cited for her and the newspaper's support of tourism and education. Melinda retired on August 30th. After 39 years and 7 months with the hometown newspaper and 48 years in journalism. I just have one question for you. Don't you think you could have hung in there for another 5 months to make it 40? I'm proud to present Melinda Gasaway.
Okay, thank you so much. And we have a proclamation that I'd like to read. Whereas Melinda Gasaway, a Hot Springs native and graduate of Hot Springs High, acquired a journalism degree from the University of Missouri and worked as a reporter in California, Louisiana, and Mississippi before returning to her hometown in 1974 and beginning a career with the Sentinel Record that would span more than 39 years. And whereas Melinda served in many capacities at the Sentinel Record before being promoted to executive editor and newsroom chief in 1980, and whereas Melinda frequently championed not only the freedom of the press and the right to express one's own viewpoint, but the importance of such things as citizen engagement, quality local education, government transparency, and integrity for the good of the community as a whole. And whereas Melinda has become known as the pulse of the community, strongly advocating projects and programs that would expand the business base, strengthen the local economy, encourage arts and tourism, and promote the continued progress of Hot Springs and Garland County. Now, therefore, I, Ruth Carney, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas, on behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim the day of September 18th, 2013, as Melinda Gasaway Day in Hot Springs, Arkansas, in recognition of services to Hot Springs and Garland County. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed on this 18th day of September in the year of our Lord, 2013.
Thank you, Mayor Carney and directors and City Manager David Watkins. This is really an honor, and I so appreciate it, but I have to share this, as I do with everything else that I've done in my career, with my colleagues, both past and present, and certainly the folks who are just across the street at 300 Spring Street. And I want to commend all of you and thank you for your willingness to commit to public service and to take on the difficult challenges any city faces today. And I wish you all the best in the future and know you will continue to do what is best for the citizens. And again, I thank you most sincerely for this honor.
Thank you.
Amen.
And you know what happens when you name it her day, don't you? All of you are supposed to do something really nice for her, you know, go out and buy her a gift certificate and send her flowers. So all of you remember to do something very nice, clean her house, whatever she needs. Thank you. It's your day. We will now hear our city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor.
Do you have a report?
I have one item I wanted to highlight. Last Thursday evening, we had our employees award dinner, and we celebrated like we did tonight, tenure of people who have given service in various capacities to the city in the fire, police, public works, sanitation, utility departments. I wanted to thank directors Foley, Clark, and Davidson for being there because it showed the support of the board for the organization. I know that was valued. Minnie Lennox, our HR director, and Captain Chris Crary, our captain of the police department, were the co-hosts of that event, which probably had about 150 people there. And we were privileged to name Bobby Harris, who is our water distribution, wastewater distribution supervisor, was named Supervisor of the Year. And I can tell you he has done a tremendous job of getting those divisions organized and addressing so many of the issues that you've brought up before about water line loss or inflow and infiltration issues with the wastewater side. And then our Employee of the Year, which is an award named after former director or alderman, I suppose, Bill Edwards, was given to Angie Finley, who's our payroll coordinator. And the reason why we had that award is we try to honor somebody who exudes customer service, not only externally but internally to various departments. And I think that award was given with much acclaim by the employees who vote on that. So we had a good celebration, celebrated people who gave their careers to the city, and I think all in all it was a very a positive event for the organization.
You did tell them that I was out of town, right? Or I would have been there.
I did say that, and I think
It wasn't that I just missed it.
I think Director Davidson did a nice job
Okay.
being your designated hitter.
Okay, thank you. And I did miss it because I was grieved when I found out they were having it on the night that I would be at a conference in Branson.
Hey,
Yes.
competitor.
So I didn't spend any money there.
I was also out of town.
You were out, yes.
Out of the country.
Yeah, you were out of the country. So you would have been there too, right? We're not speaking for Mr. Pat. We'll let him describe it.
I was bringing it up. I had a hospital board meeting that night.
Okay, cool.
Hey, I wasn't trying to
At
lay a
least
guilt
we
trip
know.
here.
Thank you for all those concerned. Okay, do we have any announcements concerning upcoming events? Yes, ma'am.
I just have one.
We'll let you go first, Ms. Davidson.
This weekend on Saturday is the annual Park Avenue Community Association's rummage sale, and they've changed the venue, and it's going to be in the portico and in the front porch of the BN, that historic building that is behind the Park Island Market and Cafe. So I understand there's a lot of goodies, but I don't get privileges to go to a preview sale the night before. So hopefully you can come out and help support the Park Avenue Community Association. Thank you.
Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two announcements, and both of them are for October 1st. October 1st at 6:20 a.m. will be the Garland County Prayer Breakfast at the Convention Center across the street here in Horner Hall. And also on October 1st at 6 p.m., I will combine the community meeting for October with our National Night Out with our police department, focusing on our neighborhood watch, and that will be at the Forest Lakes Clubhouse, October 1st. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? Elaine, no parties in your neighborhood?
Oh,
coming
no.
up? Okay. We are so glad to have you back. She has been out again.
Right now.
She had. But we're glad you're back with us and recuperating. Thank you for coming. Okay, the next item of business is the consideration of the consent agenda. Items in this section are of routine nature and will be considered as one item of business without discussion. I will now entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and would you please call the roll?
Yes. Clark,
Aye.
McCabe,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
Okay. And the next item of business is to consider, is it resolution number R13201?
Yes, ma'am.
And would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R13201, a resolution awarding a contract to Christ Engineers, Inc. for certain professional services, Ouachita Water Treatment Plant Improvements Phase 2. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you now entertain a motion and a second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. And discussion, Mr. Carnahan.
Thank you, Gary Carnahan, City Engineer. As you know, we talk a lot about our future water source, but that is probably, we say, roughly 4 years or so away. So in the meantime, it's strategic that we keep our existing water treatment plant operating at full capacity. And as you know, last year we reached even 93% of that capacity of the demand on a given day. So we have a problem in that after rain events, the creeks contributing into the river and the lake there muddy the water up so badly that our water plant can't treat that water at the same pace or rate that obviously that it can treat clearer water, which is our normal clear water that we start with. And last year, the city installed in our first 5 basins, we have 7 basins at that plant, in our first 5 basins we installed tube settlers, and we found, Taylor Gates, who operates that plant, has found that that they can treat water to a much higher level, even the muddy water, than our old basins could. And but our 2 largest basins, 6 and 7, don't have those tube settlers. And so, to just give you we could operate that plant at 21 million gallons a day, but when we have a muddy water situation, the most he can operate it is about 6 million gallons a day, because he has to slow the pace down to keep from clogging through the flocculation basins, to keep from clogging those filters. 6 million gallons a day is only about half of our demand, even on a rainy day when people aren't irrigating. We still need 10 to 12 million gallons a day. So you can see the dilemma that we're in. We had hired, you remember that we selected Christ Engineers to be our water consultant, and one of the items in their scope of work was to evaluate our existing plants to help us get through this period of time until we have more capacity. And so working with our staff and Taylor Gates at the plant, they are recommending, and the staff, we're recommending that we add these tubes, actually plates, settling plates, in Basin 6 and 7. And Taylor believes that with those plates in place, those settling plates, he can operate the plant so that we don't lose, that we can operate enough capacity to meet our demand even when the water is muddy. So it's important, we think, to make this investment. It's altogether, well, let me mention that it also included in this proposal is right now we have to manually operate the water level in 7 different basins, and they're not all the same size, with manual valves. So you can just kind of imagine if you were trying to run around and make that plant operate with different incoming water levels. So we want to put in mechanical, electronic operating valves that monitor that, but we have not been able to do that because we have to empty Basin 6 and 7 to install these big 30-inch valves. So while these basins are drained, and while we put the tube settlers in, we can install those valves, something we've been needing to do for a while now, quite a while. Also including in this proposal is the installation, the design. This is all design work, by the way. What I'm describing to you here tonight is design work only, no construction. It's a design contract with Christ Engineers to design these things we're talking about. And but another thing is, as you know, we have a state law that requires that we install, if we have a grant from Delta Dental, that we install fluoridation at that plant. The state has excused us from installing that at the Lakeside plant because our intention is to close it off when we have a new plant in place, hopefully in 4 or 5 years. But at the Ouachita plant, Upper Lake Hamilton, we are still under a state mandate to do that if it's funded through a grant. So the design of that is also included in this proposal that I'm presenting to you tonight. So what I'm asking for is approval of a contract with Christ Engineers for $421,000, which includes the design and construction period observation and engineering for all of that work. It's an investment of about $3 million in total, although if we install the fluoridation equipment, it would be paid for by a grant. So, do you have any questions that I could? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. And it was that was the question I had in these different components of this contract. It was my understanding that the fluoridation design work was the component for that was what was it, around $42,000?
Yes, ma'am.
So, and if the grant, we are adhering to the law. We've applied for the grant. We are waiting to hear back on the status of our grant. If it was not approved, then that work would not be done.
Exactly. This the contract that we're asking you to approve is a maximum fee based on an estimate of man hours and required. It's a maximum not to exceed, and that's the way our relationship is with Christ Engineers. We have an hourly fee schedule, and every month they submit how many hours, how many miles they had to drive, et cetera. And so we pay them what they actually spend. And obviously, we wouldn't, also the different elements of the design, we tell them when to start this, start that. But we like to include all this in one. We've set up the design contract as if it were going to be approved, because we would fashion a construction contract so that we do all of this at one time, if it's all approved.
And that's what it's contingent on. If it's not approved, then that component would not be done.
Would drop
the
out.
contract. If it is, we adhere to the law and follow through.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, hearing, are there any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
Okay. And the next item of business is to consider resolution number R13202. Council, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R13202, a resolution amending Resolution 3841 as amended, financial management policies by amending the operating budget policy transfer authority. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you now entertain a motion and a second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, and discussion. Who would have that? Doretha? She's not here. You have the information?
No, ma'am.
What was the question?
Would that
This
be
is
you,
over the
Lance?
operating policies on
Oh,
the budget
I know,
to
but-
change. So if you want to.
The financial management policies.
Well, this is something that we talked about at a workshop we had, and our CFO has recommended some changes in our current policy governing fiscal management of the operation. And I think to get specifically into it, it has to do with changing our what we have to budget in each fund for a reserve. We're changing the language on that. More importantly, we're making a change with recognition that enterprise operations are to be self-supporting. And budget should be based on sound long-range financial planning, and each year's budget should properly incorporate approved rates, operating expenses, debt service, coverage, et cetera. These were kind of, I would call them tweaks that Doretha had put into our policy that we ran by you a couple weeks ago. But if there are questions in more detail, I'm sure we can hold this over for a couple weeks. It's just, yeah.
You have questions?
I wanted to emphasize that this policy change in what was being delegated to the city manager is within approved budget only. It would not impact any change where it could be funded from the fund balancing or additional outside financing. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had discussion last week about I don't think there's any sentiment on the part of the board to allow the city manager to take money from the police fund and move it over to the fire fund, or the fire fund to the general fund. I understand the importance of wanting to segregate those funds. What we're talking about is having the flexibility within the fund, not intra-fund. And I think the board was comfortable with that exception.
Mr. Foley, did you have a question?
For the benefit of the community, at the beginning of each budget year, we establish a budget and ask the management to manage this organization within that budget. In fact, what has happened is there have been so many restrictions on the city manager to work within the departments that he can't even consolidate departments. He cannot transfer employees from one department to another without significantly affecting his going outside of budget. So in fact, what it means is every time he has to make a change, he comes to us for approval, including more spending money. And that, in any other business, we would just say, okay, if a police car is wrecked, go get it fixed, and now you have to find some other place in the budget to take it from, so the city's expenditures don't just keep going up. Today, his control by the board is at the department level and at the fund level, and what we're asking for this change to be is that we give him the authority to make the decisions for good management and operations within the fund. The only exception to that is those funds that are considered our community safety funds, our police and fire funds. He may add money to those funds, but he may not take it away. So the board has some assurance that we won't see a compromise in safety or security in this community, and yet give him the authority and responsibility to manage within a fixed budget so we don't have to keep approving the budget increases throughout the year. Now, that's my take on it.
No, that's excellent. This budget needs to be more agile, to use a football term. We're having to go through way too many hoops and processes which aren't saving the taxpayer any money. In fact, they're costing us. And so this will give me the flexibility to stay within the approved budget, but move expenditures within those funds. And I appreciate the board's support in allowing my office to do that.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Yes. McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
Okay, it's adopted. The next item of business is to consider resolution number R13203. Council, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R13203, a resolution approving a site plan, SPA 13-80, at 2705 Central Avenue for Oaklawn Jockey Club. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you now entertain a motion and a second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and Ms. Selman.
Good evening, Mayor and Board, City Manager. I'm Kathy Selman, Planning and Development Director. We're here tonight to consider an appeal of an approval by the Planning Commission for a site plan expanding the major building at Oaklawn Jockey Club. That's at 2705 Central Avenue. Planning Commission held their meeting on Thursday, June 13th, and approved that site plan, which is known as SPA 130080, because they found that the standards for approval according to Hot Springs Code were met. Mr. John Girolamo has appealed that decision to you tonight. I'd like to talk a little bit about the site plan and how it fits into the city's overall regulatory scheme for development. There is a hierarchy of documents. The document at the top is the plan. Hot Springs has adopted plans to guide its future growth and development, and this is encouraged and enabled by the state of Arkansas. The state further enables municipalities to implement those plans by adopting regulations such as zoning, subdivision, and other specific standard-based rules. In adopting the plan, the state requires, and Hot Springs Code requires, that there be extensive public notice, and that was done in adopting the plans that the city uses. In adopting those implementing rules, the state also requires, as does the city, that those things be advertised fully to the public. And in adopting the rules that are implemented as we review a site plan, that public notice was done. That is the time when debate occurs about what is important in terms of philosophy and vision for the city. In adopting the zoning rules and subdivision rules, we look at how we can make those plans become reality. Zoning establishes what uses can go into place, how tall something can be, how far structures must be set back from the property line. And in zoning, we have two kinds of uses. We have uses that are permitted by right, and we have uses that can only be approved by Planning Commission through something called a conditional use. When we have a conditional use request for a use that needs to be approved on a specific site, and this is a use, that is required to be advertised and to hold a public hearing. In fact, a conditional use application is considered to be a quasi-judicial function and is a very serious thing. Oaklawn Jockey Club has two zones. It's Zone C1, which is the same as our downtown area. It's also Zone C4, which is our most intense commercial zone and is the regional commercial type of zone. The C1 zone does not require parking. And the substantial portion of human-based activity at Oaklawn is in an area zoned C1. The grandstand, the original buildings, those are zoned C1. No parking is required. Parking has always been provided, but is not required. The specific use of games of skill, Arkansas law allows that only to be in conjunction with an approved racetrack. Well, there's only one approved racetrack in Hot Springs, that's Oaklawn. And the area where the games of skill are located, and if approved to be expanded, is in a C4 zone district. And that C4 zone district requires Planning Commission to approve the use of games of skill. And in 2008, Oaklawn Jockey Club applied for that permission from Planning Commission to do games of skill in conjunction with the racetrack. And in 2009, Planning Commission held their hearing and made a decision to approve that use, gaming, as an accessory to the racetrack. So that determination about what use is going to be at 2705 Central Avenue was made in 2009 and at various points in years before that. What came to Planning Commission this year in June was a request to make the gaming part of that building bigger. If an individual at their home wants to attach a garage to the house, they draw a site plan, they bring it to the planning department, and we review those things that the zone requires. Are you set back far enough from the property line? Have you met the height requirements? Is it a use that's approved in that zone? When Oaklawn, with a 53,000 square foot proposal to expand their structure, needed to get a building permit because of the nature of the size of that, Planning Commission was required to look at their site plan. But because the information that is required on that site plan is fairly basic and fairly down in that hierarchy of regulations, specific public notice about the nature of that application is not required. It's not required by the state, and it's not required by the City of Hot Springs Code. Planning Commission's meeting was advertised, and the agenda was available, as it always is. So in looking at this site plan approval, Planning Commission is looking at specifics. They're looking at access. They're looking at circulation on the site. They're looking at fire hydrants. They're looking at utilities. They're looking at all of those very specific technical requirements that are established by the code to implement our zoning and to implement our comprehensive plan. When Planning Commission looked at this site plan, after it was reviewed extensively by city departments, including Public Works, Utilities, the city engineer, and state agencies, including the Arkansas Department of Transportation, Highway Transportation, the finding was that this plan was consistent with the technical requirements for a site plan to be approved. Now, there's been in the appeal a question about parking. Let's go back to the zones again. The zones require parking in the C4 zone. If you look at the requirement of the code, this is defined as an amusement center. An amusement center has parking requirements that are based upon the square footage of the structure and the number of licensed game machines. For the square footage requirement, we have 3 parking spaces per 1,000 gross square feet. That's 53,000 square feet, so we're looking at 53 times 3, 109. 159. For the machines, we have per licensed game machine a requirement for 1/2 of a space, or 1 space per 2 machines. So 500 machines in the expansion, 250 spaces. The existing structure, let's talk a little bit about that. That's 30,000 square feet with also 500 licensed game machines. So the total number of parking spaces for the existing structure and the proposed expanded structure would be 749 spaces. The Hot Springs plan, we talked about that earlier, identifies Oaklawn as one of 9 very special attractions in the Hot Springs area. The plan supports Oaklawn as a tourist attraction. Because of that, a previous board or boards, in looking at the C1 zone district, assigned it to Oaklawn, just like they assigned it downtown. Buildings downtown are in a special category. They do not have to provide parking per use. The C1 zone is different. The C4 zone does have to provide parking. The requirement with the existing project and the proposed expansion is 749 spaces. So how many spaces are there at Oaklawn? Oaklawn has found it to be in the public interest and in its own interest to provide parking, even though it wasn't required. It's practical to have it there. Oaklawn has nearly 2,000 licensed parking spaces. In addition to spaces for the jockeys, the horsemen, other employees. Their parking total is somewhere in the vicinity of 4,000 spaces. We also have something that was established by previous boards called the seasonal parking overlay. The seasonal parking overlay says that in an area that is across from Oak Lawn, back in the neighborhoods, we have several blocks on which people can prepare a space on their own property that can be licensed to provide parking. They get a license, they follow rules, they charge a fee. And this is something of a cottage industry in those neighborhoods. This is the market responding to a need. As recently as this afternoon, I had a call from a homeowner who wanted to know, how do I do this? She wants to get involved in this too. So she knows the rules, she knows how to do it. Those 53 private licensed non-Oak Lawn seasonal parking lots provide an additional 1,915 licensed spaces. So that is the parking that's available. The requirement for parking is met and exceeded. The other requirements for site plan approval have been met. Planning Commission found that those requirements were met. There were 8 conditions in the proposal to Planning Commission for approval. They added a 9th, which was that no building permits can be issued until the other conditions of approval have been met. Now, I've had many people ask me, doesn't Oak Lawn know that they can't do construction without meeting those other approvals? Don't they know that appeal has been filed? Of course they do. They are not doing building construction. They are moving utilities. They are moving an access point. They are redirecting traffic. They are installing a traffic signal. All of these things are being done at Oak Lawn's cost. Should this site plan not be approved by the board tonight, that work stops. They are working now with valid permits that have been reviewed and issued by City Public Works, Utilities, and the State Highway Department. If you do not approve this site plan tonight, that stops. This work is being done at Oak Lawn's risk, and Oak Lawn acknowledges that. But there is no work being done at this time that is not allowed at this point by the site plan and by the conditions established by Planning Commission. So the recommendation to you tonight is that you approve the site plan as it was approved by Planning Commission with the original 8 conditions and adding the 9th, that no building permits can be issued until all of the other conditions are met. The requirements of the code for a site plan have been adequately addressed, and the recommendation is to approve the resolution with 9 conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, we have the appellant, Mr. Girolamo.
Okay. Usually I get to speak in an appeal before the answer is given. So I'm going to have to object to even the way that was done. I want to point out that Ms. Selman makes a point of no requirement for notice to the public. The city did actually send a notice to the Sentinel Record to be published 15 days prior to this meeting. The Centennial Record failed to put it in. On that same notice, there were 5 other items to be addressed at the Planning Commission, which means all 5 of those other items were also not publicly noticed. When I spoke to planning, they said, at first they were surprised. Then I went to the Sentinel Record, got copies of those newspapers, and showed them that it had not been printed. About 2 days later, they informed me that it was just a courtesy to the public. Well, my belief is that if it was a courtesy, then not doing it is a discourtesy. They've had many, many weeks. Even this appeal should have been noticed to the public, and it was not. Now, we could go into that, but really this is about interpretation. If you're going to speak about different zones to get around the impact that this has on the public, I want to point out that in your code, you adopted the comprehensive plan in 1997 and the comprehensive plan that was done to the year 2030. You paid $50,000 for that comprehensive plan to be put together. And I've spoken to Bill Gaines, who was the consultant on that project 3 days ago. The major thing about the comprehensive plan is about the vision for and the economic impact to the community. Oak Lawn originally was a failing institution by their own words. So we came up with a monopoly to support them in order for them to sustain the racetrack. Well, the problem here is that last year they made $50 million profit. They still have not paid the amount of money that they promised to the city. 25 years ago, they promised a parking deck to the mayor's star at that time. Not delivered. We have the economic impact to the hospitality industry. In January, I wrote a letter to Mr. Eric Jackson requesting a meeting in order to convey the concerns of the hospitality business. You've seen the ads: free food, cheap drinks, gaming. The reality is that we all voted for this. We were supporting Oak Lawn.
Excuse me, Mayor. Point of order, please.
Uh-huh.
This discussion, number one, is beyond the 3 minutes, but it's also deviating from the discussion of the site approval and the planning
Excuse me,
commissioners.
I'm fully aware of that, and we just discussed to give him another minute to bring it around.
I
to
don't believe that I'm limited to 3 minutes. This is an appeal, and whether you're aware of it or not, this is a lower court, and actually you are the judges.
Mr.
So
Girolamo.
if you're going to limit me
Mr.
to 3 minutes, she spoke way more than 3 minutes.
Mr. Girolamo, this is an appeal by you as a citizen. There are no due process issues here because you are not the property owner. You don't have a due process. We are going to extend your time for 1 more minute, but please, please refrain yourself from discussing things outside of the site plan.
Okay,
approval.
well, when
That's
we
the
get
issue.
into traffic, okay, parking.
Yeah.
There is no real calculation for parking. B&F Engineering stated at the planning meeting that at the highest point of this season, 75,000 people will exit this building with this expansion at one time. The most reasonable calculation from any other place that I've ever dealt with is 4 people per car. They would require 18,750 parking spaces. This will overrun the neighborhood with parking up the streets, which is very similar to what happened in Atlantic City when they passed gambling. Traffic. I believe that when you alter the traffic flow, that you must rezone the property. The city submitted the application for the change of traffic, not Oak Lawn. If Oak Lawn would have done it, they would have had to submit a substantial traffic flow impact study.
Okay.
They did not.
Okay. Now, Mr. Girolamo, you are open for questions, so we can ask you
Sure.
questions. And I wanted to ask you, I read the whole your whole thing, and there were several questions that came up in my mind, but would you explain to me what type of economic impact study you would like to have? You've asked that we would consider that.
Sure.
Well, point of order, Madam Mayor, I don't think that this is about the site plan approval, and I thought that's what this appeal was.
You are out of order, okay? And I'm asking you to please be quiet while I'm asking questions.
I waited until you stopped.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Could you repeat that again?
I ask because it was in the packet that we read, and I read the whole packet, everything in the packet.
Okay.
And there was several mentions in there that, going back to what our plan for our city is, you requested that we consider, it was your request that we consider an economic impact study before we decide to add extra impact to the city. Would you explain to me what you're asking us to do?
Well, if you did an economic impact on what transpired from the second expansion, this would be the third expansion. Originally, pari-mutuel betting was the first. This is the third. So what if you have that program where so much is promoted to Oak Lawn and so much is diverted to that section of the city, what happens to the other parts of the city? What happens to the restaurant industry that supported them? 80% of the restaurants downtown are now for sale. They cannot make it through the lower downturns during the year. You've had 3 restaurants fail this month in downtown. This is not about going against Oak Lawn. They've done their job. They accomplished their job. Okay. They saved the track. Good for them. What is this about? This is about something else. This is not about community. You need to do an impact study to see what the impact is of that amount of money flowing to that. What is the taxes that are actually collected? Chick-fil-A collects more A&P tax and sales tax than all of Oak Lawn's 5 restaurants, 7 full bars, 22 concessions.
Okay, so your request to us in your appeal was that we would consider that.
Yes.
An impact study to the community, and especially to
I really would rather keep this within the community, to come to some other, maybe another alternative, maybe a different way of doing business. Because if this fails here, I will take it to the next court of jurisdiction. It will not stop here. These people have great investments in their businesses, and Mr. Jackson doesn't have the courtesy to even meet with them. So that'll be it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we have, next is Don Schimper.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I am Don Snipper. I'm an attorney here in Hot Springs with the firm of Wood Smith, Snipper, Clay, and Vines. And it's my pleasure tonight to represent Oak Lawn Jockey Club in connection with this request for the approval of the site plan of a $2 million expansion. I'm joined tonight by Eric Jackson, as general manager of Oak Lawn Park. We've got John Hopkins. We've got, well, all the directors of Oak Lawn. Please stand. Just stand. We're not going to introduce all of them, but we have a lot of the directors and the staff here from the racetrack. It's my hope tonight that if I can't give you an answer to a question, some of these people can. As you're aware, the site plan was approved by the Planning Commission, but it's been appealed here by Mr. Girolamo. Ms. Selman has done an excellent job, in my opinion, of stating my case. I don't want to waste your time by going through all the things that she went through, quite frankly. In fact, she ruined a darn good speech I had organized and planned to give you. With that in mind, let me just make a couple points and then try to answer any questions that you have. Again, if I can't answer, we'll have someone come up here and answer for you. The whole thing tonight is the site plan of Oak Lawn Park meets all of the requirements and standards for approval by the city of Hot Springs, Arkansas. It meets every one of them. There's not a one we don't meet. This isn't a request for a building permit. That's going to come later if this site plan is approved. And I've had a little trouble trying to decide exactly what Mr. Geronimo is fussing with the site plan. Now, I know he's got complaints, and those can come up. Well, a lot of people have those complaints, but we're talking strictly about the site plan. If the objection deals with the highway, Central Avenue, then he needs to talk to the Arkansas State Highway and Transportation Department. Believe me, Oaklawn has. That's their jurisdiction. And I might tell you that the layout, the entrance, which we all see going on out there right now, changing around, that all is going to be identical to what we already have. Turning lanes will be same. The directions will be same. There will be a different street. There will not be coming in straight to the parking area from Higdon Ferry. They'll be coming in from Woodlawn and from Central. If the complaints with traffic within the grounds of Oaklawn, then he's going to have to be specific and tell me what he's talking about in there, because we're spending a lot of time going through there now outlining all these spaces. If he's talking about parking, Ms. Selman has answered that question about as succinctly as anybody I know can. Believe me, we are fully aware, we at Oaklawn are fully aware, and we respect Hot Springs Zoning Code Section 16-2-1036 and the number of required spaces set out in that particular section.
Okay.
What's the real objection to the plan? I'm still not sure. I know they have complaints, but to me they're not pertinent to the site plan, and I urge you to approve this motion and deny this appeal.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Thank you. Now we have Doug Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and speak. I don't take it for granted, especially in light of the last time I stood before you. Yogi Berra is known for being a great baseball player, but he's also turned a good phrase on occasion. And one of the most famous was, "It's deja vu all over again." And that's the way I feel tonight as this board standing before you once again, asking the Solis family from St. Louis, asking you once again to make a special consideration for their business. Several years ago, my church built a new auditorium, and one of the conditions that had to go along with building that new auditorium was that we had to include ample parking for our attendants. I believe the figure was 1 to 4, as already mentioned by John, which would include 100% of our attenders. And I don't know any church that has 100% of attendance every Sunday in a row. Oaklawn is embarking on a third casino renovation and expansion and has yet to address the parking dilemma adequately over the years. This has been an issue. For instance, in 1987, as already been mentioned, the Sella family committed to build a parking garage if the state legislature would reduce Oaklawn's tax from 5.5% to 2% and grant a 68-day race meet. They got what they wanted, but as Mayor John Starr at that time pointed out in an open letter to the Sentinel Record in May of 1988, the parking garage has been buried with other broken promises by Oaklawn. Over the years, our city and our state has bent over backwards for the St. Louis family, and they have gotten another huge break in 2001 from 2% to 1% in their taxes, and just last year they got a reduction in their property appraisals. Yet they have not met the $2 to $2.5 million per year that they had promised the city during the benefits package campaign of 2005. Last year, the casino netted, now I understood $75 million. I just heard $50 million. And I heard that, well, let's just leave it at that. I've heard all my adult life that Oaklawn and the Sella family give to the community. They only give when they have something to gain. The rest of the time, we get traffic jams, neighborhoods filled with parked cars, businesses interrupted due to the pedestrian crossings there in front of Oaklawn, and not to mention the number of people that have become addicted to gambling. I've counseled with 3 people personally myself in the last year that have become addicted to gambling as a result of Oaklawn. Each one of them said they had never stepped foot into a casino until Oaklawn. It is time that Oaklawn does something right. It's not about semantics. It's not about the letter of the law. It's about what's doing right for the community. What's right for the community is building a parking garage, building something that will take that congested area and reduce it down. And I urgently urge you to vote against this until a parking garage plan is presented and constructed, and then also to reconsider the zoning there in Oak Lawn from C1 to make it a C4. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Okay. Eric Jackson.
Don Sniffer has said everything I can possibly think of to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Joanne Privitello.
Good evening, Mayor, and all of you in front of me. My name is Joanne Privitello, and I'm here to speak in concern about the upcoming debates of the expansion of Oak Lawn. I own 3 businesses in the immediate historic downtown Hot Springs. I have the Park Hotel at 211 Fountain Street. I have Angels in the Park restaurant within it, and I also have Angels Restaurant at 600 Central. So I am right in the center of historic downtown Hot Springs, and I have been for 15 years. I take great pride and honor that I have had the privilege to be a part of downtown Hot Springs and have had to experience the changes. Some are good, some are bad. To watch the growth that has taken place over the 15 years that I've been in business downtown. But I have to say, I am here to voice some concerns of what is being discussed this evening. I really can say I miss the hustle and bustle of the activities that used to take place downtown, whether it be art shows in Wheatley Park or craft shows or concerts or a lot of more foot traffic, especially on Central Avenue and Bathhouse Row, which I am right across from. I've seen a slow decline in the amount of the physical excitement of people being downtown and what is there to do and where to go. And of course, being in the restaurant and hotel business, we direct people to all the facilities available to them. But my concern is that I myself, and speaking to other restaurateurs downtown, have seen a decline in the amount of business coming through the door because you just can't help to be able to compete with the food and beverage prices and deals that Oak Lawn offers. It is really very, very tough competition. And taxes are going up every few months, and we have tourists come through our door who go into shock or question us about our tax breakdowns, and we have to explain to them we are a tourist city, and most people accept it, but a lot of people don't, and they'd rather go elsewhere where they don't quite have to pay the prices that you might need to pay when you have rents of downtown Hot Springs. And basically that is all I'm here to speak about, is that I do have concern about expanding a monopoly that's showing signs of hurting downtown directly in the restaurant business.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Steve Arison.
Get this up here where you can hear me. My name's Steve Arison. I live at 219 Lee Circle. I'm a resident of the city, and I'm also the CEO for Visit Hot Springs. And I tell you, Hot Springs is America's first resort. We've been leading tourism in Arkansas for over 100 years, and the #1 tourism attraction in the state of Arkansas is Oak Lawn, and it has been for over 100 years. I was here to talk about the site plan, but I thought I'd come up here because there's been, the #1 collector of our 3% tax in restaurants is Southwestern Catering. and that does the food service at Oaklawn. So that was an incorrect statement by Mr. Girolamo. But I think the important thing is that this is a great attraction from our community. I talk to a lot of restaurateurs. We have new restaurants opening every day. You talk about the downtown area. You look at Fat Jack's. You can look at the Superior Bathhouse. Incredible new restaurants going in. We have 3 hotels relocating here right now. And why is that? A lot of it has to do with Oaklawn. I think it's great. We have a local business that employs people, is going to employ more people, is going to pay more taxes. As a citizen, I think that's a great thing for us. We have development coming in. Those hotels aren't coming in here because nothing is going on in the community. We have, 3 hotel projects right now. I know Jim Fram is here. These wouldn't be coming here if things weren't going on here. I hope next meeting we have Garvin Gardens here with a 50% expansion. That would be great. I can't imagine that they're having a discussion like this at Crystal Bridges. Can you imagine the community of Crystal Bridges complaining because that attraction doesn't charge an admission? Look at the tax collections in that community. Our 3% AMP tax hit a record last year. July was close to our second best month ever. Oaklawn has a lot to do with that. So do the lakes. So do they have the restaurants and the hotels. We're all working together here. I love traffic. I lived in Pine Bluff for a long time, and you'd smell the air, and they'd say, oh, it smells terrible. And we'd say, it smells like money. I tell you, right now, after the great July we have, you can shoot a cannon down Central Avenue. I wish we had a lot of traffic, and I know a lot of business people in town do. So, this is a ridiculous conversation. I hope you approve this, and I hope they get the expansion open, and we see more businesses opening and more of our current businesses doing well. So, please consider passing this. Thank you.
Bob Driggers.
Yes, Bob Driggers, 3 Stonegate. I would like to ask before I start my presentation, how many of any of you directors plan to recuse yourselves from discussing this item and are voting? The answer apparently is none. So I would like to point out some facts I think the public should be made aware of this evening. I was approached and pointed out to me that what Oakland was doing was arrogant. So I did a little research. And I noticed on page 71 of your packet tonight, Item 4 says no construction shall be permitted until building permit has been issued, which apparently is the case. Now, Mr. Snipper pointed out that Ms. Selman did an excellent job presenting my case. Mr. Snipper, it's not Mrs. Selman's job to present your case. It's Ms. Selman's job to represent the public and the taxpayers and the citizens of this city. So after looking at this, and I noticed in the newspaper headlines yesterday morning, it says work's underway. A construction crew worked on a new entrance last week at Oaklawn Park as part of the facility's expansion plans. Maybe someone's got their facts wrong. And yes, I'm calling it a casino. As a matter of fact, if you look on page 76 of your packet, you will see basically where the general manager of Oaklawn called it a casino. Walk in the place. It's a casino, folks. Why do we not call it that? I mean, yes, I agree with some of these folks. It is arrogant. I'm not concerned whether we have a casino in town too much or not. But it is a casino. And by the way, somebody pointed out that, our directors shouldn't even be voting on this. Oaklawn must know how the vote's going to go. Well, I did a little research and I went down and I found out that one of you directors, your spouse, makes their income. They work at Oaklawn. Another on your financial statement pointed out that your spouse made over $1,000 there. And then I went and got the campaign contributions. We have several people who receive pretty substantial campaign contributions. It's not your job to pay them back. One of your directors even got a check directly from St. Louis, the owner of the park. I would hope you'd consider recusing yourself and not voting on this issue tonight.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fram?
Thank you, Mayor and Directors. My name is Jim Fram. I'm honored to serve as President and CEO of the Greater Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce and the Hot Springs Regional Partnership. I'm going to be very brief, and I'm going to restrict my comments to the appeal of the site plan only. I was honored to go through some testing and be designated as a certified economic developer in 1996, and still hold that designation through the International Economic Development Council. And I've looked at the appeal, and the appeal, in my opinion, addresses some concerns about parking and about traffic. I will tell you that in my professional opinion that Kathleen Selman and her staff at the city have done a very excellent job of succinctly and directly addressing those concerns and answering those with a very professional response. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bill Riggins?
Mayor,
sir.
Members of the City Council, I've prepared a diagram that I'd like to pass to you so that we can stay on the same frequency on this situation. And my name is Bill Riggins, and I'm not a native of Hot Springs. I'm not a resident of Hot Springs, but I am a resident of Garland County. I'm retired Navy, and I've relocated to Hot Springs 17 years ago. I'm married to a lovely Hot Springs native, and I'm very proud of her, and I'm very proud to be a citizen of Hot Springs, Arkansas, of the county, in Hot Springs, because I do patronize all the businesses in Hot Springs. I respect and certainly honor the comments that have been made here tonight. However, I've got a serious reason for being here, and that is that I'm taking this opportunity, the first one that I've ever had, to come before you, this distinguished body, to discuss and to bring to your direct personal attention a serious traffic hazard. Now, you've already heard a lot of conversation about traffic. Let's talk about traffic on Highway 7. This is a state highway. It does not belong to the city of Hot Springs alone. I am a taxpaying citizen, and I resent having been denied free access of this thoroughfare that is designated as a scenic highway throughout the country on our state maps. Now, I'm very proud. I'm a born and native Arkansan, so you can't say that I'm a Yankee or out of here. I've been all over the country. I've driven in all of the major cities in America and Hawaii. So I'm a little bit familiar with traffic patterns and things of that nature. I've had considerable experience in my Navy career of site planning and relocation of facilities and naval air stations in their entirety. So I'm not coming to you from a makeshift standpoint, as I consider it. I had a very close call right here, and I'd like to point out, if I may, to begin with, that I'm not here to discuss anything about the operation of Oaklawn or the casino or any of these new traffic. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. This is kind of a makeshift presentation, and I apologize, gentlemen and ladies. But nevertheless, the area of interest that I am concerned with are these right here mid-block and let's make sure that we're correct, mid-block crosswalks. Now, these have been determined from my research, and I've done considerable research. I've got a lot of traffic studies that have been done and accident statistics right here, and they're open for your purview.
I'm going to give you just a couple of more minutes to explain that because it took you a while to get it up there and you had a hard time. I'll give you a couple of more minutes to explain it because you dropped several things.
Thank you, Mayor. My research and investigation into this matter right here, I have been a periodic visitor to Hot Springs since 1938. Now, I can tell you how old I am. But nevertheless, I know the traffic problems that exist on this state highway right here, and they are known, all of my friends and relatives all over the state. Not only that, but this thing, and I concur with Mr. Erickson, this is an economic engine, and it should not be shut down, okay? But this right here is a situation that we've got that needs desperate attention and action before any action is taken on approving this resolution of expansion of this casino. Because inherently, you well know that they're not going to expend the investment in a new casino or addition to the casino unless they anticipate increased participation of their customers. Now, my investigation has result in trying to evaluate and substantiate many rumors and false statements that I have found that occur or have been given both to this board and throughout to the general public. And I have many statistics and facts to cover. 30 minutes wouldn't cover it. But I'm going to try my best to get within this 3 minutes I'm allowed.
I think we're ticking down. Hurry.
But anyway, to get back to this situation, I've known over these years all of this congestion that has occurred in this general vicinity here. Now, I'm not talking about, again, any of these stoplights that are one in existence now, and the second one that's being installed and approved by the State Highway Department down here at Woodlawn.
Okay, thank you, sir. Your time has been extended and up, but I do want to ask you a question. Is your request that we do a traffic study with the state more than what has been done?
Yes,
is like an extended traffic study?
But I can tell you that if an in-depth traffic study has been conducted, there are 20,000 vehicles, 20,000 that transit this area on an average day as established by the Arkansas Highway Department. Now, I have been in conference with the people over there, so I know what I'm talking about.
Okay. So we'll take that into consideration. I appreciate your...
Well, not only that, but I cannot substantiate the pedestrian traffic. There is no study here that is available that crosses here. And the problem here...
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
We have to move on because we have several signed up, but we do appreciate you doing it and for your study that you've done and your request.
Mayor, if I may cover one item here. Many cities have removed these mid-city blocks. They're the most dangerous in America. That's a proven fact.
Right.
Now, there have been no studies conducted before this board made the decision to expand Oaklawn.
Okay, and I will request it with Mr. Bill if we can check out to see if we can do a crosswalk traffic study, some sort of
thank you very much.
Something we can designate as a study for the crosswalks. Okay.
Well, these are major blood clots, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Needs to be installed in that major.
I'm going to get fired
artery.
if you don't sit down. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Chris Reimers.
Good evening. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight also. And I was the one that that went and got the FOI information from the police department, and you can see it's a little hefty there. It's about a little over 3.5 years of traffic information, traffic accidents, and things that happened at Oaklawn. And I'd just like to bring out one fact. 169 accidents is what I counted, and I'm sure there are many others that just never get reported. But in this stack that I have, there are 169 total accidents, and of those total accidents, about 37% of them are hit-and-run accidents. And so 62 of the 169 are hit-and-run accidents. And my concern there is that obviously although few of these mention drugs or alcohol, I'm guessing that a large percentage of those hit-and-run accidents are drug and alcohol related. And anyway, that's all I really like to say about and if you have questions about this information, I'll try to answer those for you after I've finished with the rest of my speech here. What I really wanted to cover was how this affects families, how this site affects families presently. And as Pastor Jones said, he had 3 families this year that were affected by Oaklawn. I've spoken to another pastor who said he's had 3 family members affected by what's happening at Oaklawn. Another pastor said 8 families have been affected. There's been losses of homes, jobs. 1 business was lost because of Oaklawn. 12 others have had gambling problems because of Oaklawn. And that's all just this year. I had one other church who he used the word destroyed. The family was destroyed because of a gambling problem, and both of the husband and wife both lost their jobs. Another pastor said that 3 to 4 families were affected. Many are hooked on gambling, he said. There was another pastor who said that he notices thefts go up during the racing season. And he asked, and people are asking for food and utility bills during the racing season. And then finally, I did talk to a friend of mine who has a son, and he received $70,000 in some type of insurance settlement, and he went out and spent the entire amount, all $70,000, at Oaklawn and lost all of it. So I would request that you would vote no on this resolution. And does anyone have any questions as far as the traffic?
I had a question. And the 169 accidents were over how long? What period?
That was over about a little over a 3.5 year period. It starts on January 10th, I believe, of 2010.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Any other questions?
I would just like to make the observation with the last speaker that if there were 20,000 vehicles a day, that's 7,300,000 vehicles in a year's time. And for 50 accidents, I would expect that there'd be some accidents with 7,300,000 vehicles going through an area.
May I make one more comment, Your Honor?
Last speaker said that there were 20,000 vehicles a day.
Well,
that
yes.
Times 365 days, that's 7,300,000 vehicles. Your time period is a 3-year time period, so it's about 55 to 60 a day. 60 a year for 7,300,000 vehicles. I would think that that's exceptionally low.
Was that on all of Central Avenue or just in that designated area?
I think it's all of the report were reports about accidents around Oaklawn, and so. You may see this as low. I see 62 hit-and-run accidents as an issue.
They're all tragedies. I'm just trying to not get it overblown. That's all I'm saying.
We've had people that have had to go to the hospital. Just one other thing. I'd just like to say about the parking. There's been a lot of talk about the parking. And let's say there were 10,000 parking spaces, which we don't have 10,000 parking spaces. Let's say we did. How does that cover 70,000 people that the previous speaker spoke of? That's just my question to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Lewin. and the camera's going, let me tell you, okay? Just for your information, you're being recorded.
Well, you know, after all these bad people speaking, you need somebody that's on your side. Okay. You know, I'm not even going to talk about the gambling and how bad it is and how it ruins every family and everything. But, you know, you can't really entertain a motion to extend that business here, whatever you want to call it, in Hot Springs. It is detrimental to the city. You know, I mean, there is more. For every 4 people that they hire, 6 people lose their jobs downtown. You know, I know when I was in business here, we didn't have the casino. But when the races started in town, my business went phew. And if it wouldn't have been for the racetrack photographer to buy his paper for me, I'd have been completely shut down. And I'm not the only business. I know other businesses who are down too. So the racetrack itself is a detriment to the city. But big deal, you know. We have to put up with it for 3 months and then they are gone. But this casino is going on year round, and all these great people here that are making these huge salaries up here at Oaklawn, you know, they're here to spout it off. That's good. But there's a lot of people working up there for almost nothing. And you can't tell me that that's a great boom to our city. Now, what you need to think about if you want to vote here tonight is this casino good for our city? The answer to that is, if you don't know it yet, no. And do they need an expansion? After making $30 million a month, they need an expansion for what? So they can suck more money out of our economy? Oaklawn is a cancer. It's growing inside our city here. And if we don't stop it, it's going to destroy the whole city. And that's not overdoing it. This is the truth. I mean, I deal with poor people. We feed them and we house them and we do things. And you don't know how many say, well, my husband lost all his money at the casino. And with these credit cards that they get now for their payments, Social Security payments or whatever, they're all being cashed at the casinos. And it's a cancer, and if you people let it grow, then you're going to be responsible for all these people that get hurt by it. And I don't think you really want to have that on your minds. And it's a crime to give that expansion any thought at all. So. Now you got the lighter side of the news.
You made it. Thank you. Okay. All right. That's all we have signed up. Let me see when I got lost over here. Where are we? Okay, discussion of this board of directors. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to say, I mean, I appreciate the community coming out and speaking their mind. But this board is charged with making a decision that either supports or denies the Planning Commission's approval of this site plan and nothing else. The issue of gambling was decided by the public, affirmed by the Supreme Court. What goes on in the community has been decided long ago. This is supposed to be a discussion about the site plan. I respect everybody's willingness to get up and speak in front of everybody, but we're charged with making a decision on the site plan. That's it.
Any other discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor. I received a call from a citizen this afternoon and who lives in the area, and she said that she didn't want the board to give special treatment to this site plan request. But I don't think that the board is here and has a question before them to give special treatment. It was my understanding that we treat everybody, every business, equitable and to be fair to everyone and to every business. And looking at the question that's before us, it's whether to uphold or not uphold the findings and the approval of the Planning Commission. Is that correct?
True.
Mr. Attorney. And so the issue of the revenues is not an issue. However, in looking at the revenues, other than our sales tax, our revenues, that's our second highest revenues to our general funds and our police funds. The question on the traffic was in our appeal for us to study and to review. That also included was information from the police that with the traffic light, the traffic flow would be improved. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or I'm verifying for my own understanding as well as anyone else that may have had the same question. So on the Oaklawn site plan, Mr. Attorney, does it meet the legal requirements for what the Planning Commission's findings were?
Yes, ma'am. I find no reason to not accept the recommendation of the Planning Department and the Planning Commission that's before you this evening.
Thank you.
And I think maybe some of the confusion on the parking was that I don't think everyone knew that C1, which is the seating area of probably, 70,000 people, has no requirements whatsoever for parking. So that was decided some years ago by some board that decided they didn't need to have designated parking. Like we would, a new building being built today would have, like someone said, requirements for parking. And the reason this didn't have requirements for all of those, the grandstand area, is because it's that part of the area is C1 instead of C4.
Well, I also received comments from others in my district that were in favor of the site plan because it helps. They wanted more people coming in because in my district, restaurants and hotels were being helped. And they saw a definite increase in their business. So they had a positive input. Mm-hmm. But I believe it's our responsibility to listen and to take into consideration everyone's input and consideration. I did have one other question regarding the traffic light that was proposed to me as to this, how if because this is a state Arkansas Highway and Transportation Department requirement to approve. And if we have one at Woodlawn, Golf Links, and Higdon Ferry and Central, how will that be synchronized to maintain traffic flow there?
It'll all be synchronized within the city system, obviously, and on the heavy attendance days like Derby weekend or the weekend before, I would assume that the police department will manually override those and let traffic out as they have for decades.
And I don't know, it's someone to speak, but that's your understanding from the police department?
Yes, and it is the approval of the highway department, not an issue for the city. The city does have to participate in that application because the agreement cannot be between the private property owner and the highway department. It must be between the city and the highway department. And assuming that you approve this issue tonight, agenda item 19 addresses Oaklawn's obligation to reimburse the city for every cent that's spent on that issue.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion?
Call for the vote, Mayor.
I will. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Carney.
I abstain.
6-1. Adopted. Yeah. Approved.
Okay, it's approved. Okay, The next item of business is to consider resolution number R13204. Council, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R13204, a resolution approving a contract with SafetyCom, Inc. for the purchase and installation of an emergency warning siren system in the downtown area. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you now entertain a motion and a second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt? Is there a second? Okay.
Okay. Good evening to the board. Max Sestilli, Stormwater Manager for the city. And let me just start by saying it's rare that I get to come and present anything to you guys, but when I do, without blowing smoke, my respect for the decisions you have to make just exponentially grows. I mean, it's incredible the things that you guys are faced with. So here's your next one. The Stormwater Division is seeking approval of a contract with Little Rock-based SafetyCom, Inc. for the purchase and installation of an emergency warning siren system for the downtown area. The system we are proposing will consist of 5 omnidirectional sirens mounted on 55-foot poles, strategically placed on Whittington, Park, and Central Avenues. The sirens are both voice and tone capable and will be used primarily to warn people outdoors of impending weather threats like floods and tornadoes, or for other emergencies like a possible hazardous chemical spill. The control center for the system will be housed at the Central Fire Station, housed and manned at the Central Fire Station, and will be an extremely useful tool for our emergency management command center as we continue to enhance our abilities to manage possible disasters. The system also has the ability to be triggered remotely by fire officials if a need arises. We chose SafetyCom after issuing an RFP and rating and ranking 4 separate proposals. The system components of each proposal were very similar, so were the prices, but it was the combination of SafetyCom's reputation, software, superior concrete poles to mount the sirens, and the expandability of the sirens that set them apart. The software is a perfect combination to our Code Red system because it enables siren triggering based on National Weather Service warnings and can be programmed to automatically launch should the city fall within weather map polygons. So if a tornado is coming to us and we fall in that polygon, the sirens can automatically trigger. Now the software is fully customizable, so we will program them so that they don't go off for just minor weather situations. I actually recommend that we program them, and I think the fire chief agrees with me, we program them for only tornado situations. Floods and any other kind of hazards, we would do manually. Because when a flood comes in, we monitor the weather conditions. We don't want these things triggering just because there's a Garland County alert going off. So my recommendation, once again, is just to do this with tornadoes if the city or the downtown area falls within that polygon. After we purchase this system and have the control center in place, the addition of more sirens is relatively inexpensive. We would like to eventually, and this is within our 5-year capital improvement plan, add more sirens to the city until we eventually cover the entire city. We think it's going to take about 10 to 12 more sirens to cover the entire city at a cost of about $23,000 for each siren. The cost of the downtown system and control center is $119,960.25, and it was budgeted for the complete amount in the 2013 budget. If we approve this, it will take about 4 months to have the equipment delivered and installed. And I just want to warn you all, this is part of the hard decision to make. Should this system be approved, we will have to test the sirens on a regular basis. That's right. All honesty. Little Rock, for instance, tests theirs every Wednesday at noon, once a week.
But you can't hear it inside, so that's okay, right?
Yes, well, you can. Some people will hear it inside, yes. It's mainly for people outdoors, but some will hear it inside. Now, we have some flexibility there. That's up to you, obviously, if we approve this, when we test these sirens, at what time, and how often we do. It's recommended that we don't go more than a month without testing them. So Little Rock maybe going overboard a little bit. But before I finish here and take some questions, I want to remind you guys, or take you in the past a little bit, back to, I believe it was July 23rd. And we all happened to be together that night. You guys all came to a meeting about the jail, I believe it was, at the Central Fire Station. And about 2 o'clock that afternoon, before the meeting, the skies were crystal clear. I receive a phone call from Code Red saying that there's a storm coming into Garland County. So I'm thinking, oh goodness, this thing is malfunctioning. There's no storm coming in. This because the skies are perfectly blue. About a half an hour later, if you remember, the skies turned black, and here comes one of the worst storms we've seen in quite some time, with about 3.5 inches of rain that poured on us within, 3 hours or something like that. Chief Davis called the emergency command center together. All of us, 8 representatives from various departments, got together at the fire station in our emergency command center and monitored the storm. Now, let me tell you this. If that storm would have continued like predicted, they thought that there would be more cells coming in. If that would have continued, this would be a perfect opportunity for us to trigger these sirens, because we were already at stage half full on the creeks. I happened to take a break and go through downtown while the rain had calmed down for just a minute. And what did I see? All of our tourists standing under the awnings of closed businesses waiting for the rain to pass, oblivious to the fact that there was possibly another storm coming in that could have caused flooding downtown. So, although we won't use this system often, when we need it, it will be important. Thank you.
Thank you. Was our fire chief going to speak too, or just?
Is Chief here?
If you would like me to,
Well,
yes, please.
Yeah, back him up.
Directors, good evening. I'm Ed Davis. I'm your city fire chief. In the process of trying to prepare for the mitigation of instances of emergencies, the city has assembled a pretty good team. One that's analyzing the downtown flash flood plain and also other flash flood areas in the city. One of the key ingredients that we're missing in the downtown area is the ability to be able to alert people. If you're in your home, you have several different means of media that will alert you: your radio, television, email, those kind of things. If you're out and about, and you're in your home locale, you'll have texting and things like that may give you a warning. However, if you're out of your normal area, like I was this last summer on vacation, you may get weather warnings from your home area, like I did here. But I certainly did not get weather warnings for Gatlinburg, Tennessee, whenever they had a flash flood that came in there. Also didn't get other warnings for whenever we were in Myrtle Beach, and I wish we would have ruined my wife's vacation. Anyway, the bottom line on it is that not everyone that comes here is going to be getting warnings on their phone. And if you're a tourist and you're trying to have your vacation like I was, you're going to do everything you can to stay there till the last minute to try and, get a little fun out of it, get your activities in. And sometimes that's probably not a wise thing to do. So what we need to be able to do is to warn those people that are going to be in the potential flash flood area downtown. One of the ways we can do this is through a siren system that's also backed up by a loudspeaker system. So we'll have the ability to be able to give a siren tone and also to be able to give directions to the public to be able to evacuate that area. This is a pretty well thought out system. It's one that is unobtrusive. As Max pointed out earlier, we could make this as loud as you wanted it to be. It could be physically painful to your ears. Now, we don't want that. What we want is we just want to be able to put a siren alert and then a voice tone that would come on and give people instruction on where they would need to go to evacuate that area. Nothing more than that. Something simple for protect the downtown area, and possibly in the future expanding it to the areas around the schools where the ballparks are, those kind of things. And if the board sees fit, expand it to the entire community. But that is the purpose of it, and it's the efficacy of our efforts. Thank you.
I have a question,
Yes, ma'am.
and I got it in an email, and I don't remember, but the question was asked: how much would the completed system cost us after you've put in where you think other areas? I forgot somewhere.
Yes, so we estimate that there will be 10 to 12 more sirens needed to cover the entire city once the downtown area is, this system we're talking about is established, at a cost of about $23,000 each. So we're talking about $230,000, $260,000 to complete the installation for the rest of the city.
That would be including this 120, or that's
No, that would be in addition to.
Okay, and then I know we've changed some of our rules, but before we added all those others, would that come back to us, or do you just automatically add those as you can?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we've budgeted at this point $50,000 per year to install 2 additional sirens per year over the next 5 years.
So that wouldn't come back to us? or it would?
Yeah, it would every time we
That's
do a
what you come
budget.
back to you.
Okay.
You'd have the ability during the budget process to reject it if you choose not to fund it, Mayor.
Okay, it's according to what's going on that year.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, Max, just to make sure, because this came up at the agenda meeting, I want to make sure there's no confusion. The funds that's utilized to purchase these sirens is coming out of the stormwater fee. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct?
That is correct. An
And
enterprise
those funds
fund.
can't be used for anything other than, stormwater abatement and safety issues like what we're talking about. We can't pave a road with it.
Exactly. That's correct.
Right. And I do want to make a comment. Max talked about the control center, the command and control center. We saw that live that night, and it is quite substantial. It's one thing about going into a room with all these computers and monitors and camera feeds from different parts of the city, when everything's black, so to speak, when nothing's going on. It's something else when you see, people in their positions, watching the gauges and knowing what's going on in real time. I think I was really impressed with that. And I think the sirens just add to that. We're a tourist town. And this, I know funding's always an issue, but we bring people to our community, we bring them downtown, and they ought to feel safe. And if we have a major rainstorm that drops, and as we all know, we're kind of like a funnel right through downtown, and it comes up through the tunnel there. Exactly. And it happens so fast. And so I think it's real important for us to move forward in this area. Plus, the fact that we can expand it through proper utilization of those same funds, that source of funds, is going to be a real benefit. I was raised in towns that had this, that was much smaller and didn't have the geographical challenges, the terrain challenges that we have here. So this is really a thumbs up for you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And when we last spoke, and I had a few questions on that, that's the way I understood it, that this is phase one of a plan to expand to cover the entire city for a tornado warning system. And this first phase is the more expensive phase.
That's correct.
And the testing that was performed last year, the equipment and setup is not the same as what we're going to have installed, but you have a guarantee from this company that it will work when we get it installed and you do the testing. If we do not hear it in the areas that it's designated to be installed for, they are guaranteeing to make it work. So
we have a 95%, I think, coverage guarantee of the area that they promise that they will cover. And to add to the testing that we did, as I think I've mentioned before, and I believe I even sent the test results out, we stationed, I think, 10 or so city employees around town as we moved the siren around, and we had them rate the intensity of the sound that they could hear. And that's why we decided to go with 5 sirens rather than 3 from the results of that test. So we really do believe that that's going to work. And as Chief said, the beautiful thing about this system, and one of the reasons we chose this company, was for a relatively inexpensive cost, and I'm not saying we will have to do this because we believe that what we've decided on is good, but we can add additional power amps or discs to this thing if necessary to make them even louder.
Good job.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now we have Bob Driggers signed up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, the bad, and evil.
I was a little surprised to see this on the agenda tonight, but this does seem like deja vu all over again. I would hope you would go back and review your minutes. I think the same items come up once before and it was basically rejected. So you might want to look into that before you pass it. This is similar to some of the dog and pony shows we've heard back when Code Red came in. Oh, this is the perfect tornado warning system. And they demonstrated it. They said, in case there's a tornado right now about Mountain Pine, here's what we'd do. We would go to this number, we would put in this passcode, then we would bring up this map, then we would select how many. And they went through so many steps that at the time, Kent Myers' telephone rang, the storm was probably to Benton. So it didn't work out. And by the way, we've had this system before. We've had sirens. We've had flood warning systems. The city didn't maintain them. Kind of like this particular building. You'll recall there was a board before you folks that voted $15 million of our tax dollars to replace it. The roof was leaking. The roof across the street was leaking. The finance department roof was leaking. Don't we ever maintain anything? Park benches up in Whittington, bad shape. Kimberly Park shut down right now, lack of maintenance. Let's start maintaining some things. This is just something else we can spend, although it's not much money because it's easy for a revenue-strapped town to say 6 figures isn't very much money. It's a waste. You know, Ed, if you get yourself one of these phones, I was in Texas recently. I got Amber Alerts, weather alerts, all kinds of stuff. Alerts I didn't want. Had to come back to the local phone company to find out how to turn off all those alerts. Tourists don't pay attention to sirens. They become oblivious to them. I'd recommend you use the old-fashioned method. You know, it's kind of like Johnny Cash says, how high is the water, mama? You see it getting high? Put you up some barricades. Let the fire department, if they're going to man this thing anyway, go through with the bullhorn. When tourists get out of downtown, barricade it off, folks. It's a lot cheaper. And it's something that you don't have to maintain. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. That brings up one question I'd just like to ask Max. On the maintenance, is there any guarantee, are we getting one of those Sears things that you add 2 or 3 years to cover if it breaks?
Yes, I guess it's very similar to that. Mr. Driggers is right that the old system had, I guess what you consider less quality parts and some moving parts. The new system that we have has very few moving parts that would ever need maintenance, but when we buy the system, we have a 2-year warranty on all the parts, and then additionally upon that, it would be $75 per module per year after that. So 75 times 5 to continue the warranty.
Okay. Have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Clarification. It's my understanding that the item for consideration is the contract before us tonight with SafetyCom, that the issue of purchasing and installing this system was approved in the 2013 budget in December. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, this was a budgeted item.
Yes, you may.
The reason why the past system failed was a couple of different reasons. One was it was not Y2K compliant. System would not work past the year 2000. It was just, there was no way it was going to. You know, as far as like the maintenance on it, if your core of your system, your computer does not work, there's really no reason to try and maintain it. And that was the reason why it was abandoned. One of the reasons why the fire department, in fact, I think if you look hard enough, you'll find a memo from us saying that advising the city to abandon it for that reason. So anyway, I did want to make that clear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Max. Did you have a question? Anybody else? Okay. Would you please call the roll?
Yes.
Thank you again.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It's adopted. The next item of business is to consider resolution number R13205. Council, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R13205, a resolution expressing the willingness of the City of Hot Springs to allow for the installation of new traffic signal at Highway 7 South Central Avenue at Woodlawn Avenue. That concludes the reading, Mayor. If you now entertain a motion and a second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt and a second?
Second.
Okay. Would you please?
Thank you, Mayor, Board of Directors, Denny McFate, Public Works Director. Staff recommends approval of a resolution for our Arkansas Highway and Transportation Department Traffic Control Agreement for a new signal at Highway 7 South Central Avenue at Woodlawn Avenue. Oaklawn Jockey Club wishes to expand their current building southward from the existing building, which would require closing of the main entrance into Oaklawn. Oaklawn's proposal is to relocate their main entrance on Central Avenue down to Woodlawn. Oaklawn has signed a memorandum of understanding with the city and will be burdened with 100% of the construction and installation costs of the new traffic signal, along with drive and street modifications, sidewalks, and including a new turning lane into the entrance. They will also be responsible for providing a new coordination timing plan and necessary modifications at the Higdon Ferry Central Avenue signal at their old entrance to Oaklawn. The city needs to obtain necessary highway department permits and must enter into a highway department traffic control device agreement with them. The city will be responsible for providing electrical service and permanent maintenance of the signal, as we do at all other signals, once the signals and necessary improvements are made. The physical impact is approximately $800 for us to set up the electrical service for the new traffic signal and approximately $150 a year in electrical billing. And we would take it over and maintain it as we do our other traffic signals. Any questions?
Denny, is this signal in lieu of the one that presently dumps into the intersection of Higdon Ferry and Central?
It's an additional one on Central. Now, on the Oaklawn entrance sides, when they close the entrance, that leg of that signal will go away, which gives the timing back to Central run time and Higdon run time. We've asked, as I mentioned in here, that they provide us a coordination plan that we can plug into our tactics system, which is our server out at the traffic division, that would coordinate this signal with all the rest of our signals on the entire Central corridor.
And you said the initial setup is $800?
Yes, ma'am. That is for them to set a meter for the service, electrical service. It'll be in the city's name.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We have Don Beavers signed up.
My name's Don Beavers, 928 Airport Road, and I don't need to make a presentation because I think it's pretty straight, but I do want to say that if there's any questions by the board, we'll be glad to try to answer. We'll be available. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and Dan Lewin. Now you're an electrician. And you're still on the air, so hurry.
What we need is another traffic light. No, if I got it right, is Oaklawn is going to pay for the installation and everything? Is that? No, Oaklawn is a company of broken promises. If you start believing what they tell you, man, I tell you, I got 2 bridges in Brooklyn and a ball team. But, they're going to build a parking deck. They're going to make an overpass for the pedestrians. They have made all the promises, and they say, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They never do anything. They don't even pay taxes. 1.5% of your net, come on. I ran business, and I know you guys, that, and net, whatever you make it, So another traffic light, we don't need it. We got enough slowdown on traffic on Central Avenue as it is, so that's it.
Thank you, Dan.
Don't do
it. Okay. Do we have any questions at all for anyone about the traffic?
And, does the wording in the resolution cover the synchronization with the existing light at Higdon Ferry?
Yes, it's all
in Central.
Yes, it's
with the new light at Woodlawn.
Yes, it's all part of the permitted process through the Highway Department. And we do have a signed agreement, page 179 of your packet, executed by Oaklawn Jockey Club, agreeing to reimburse the city for 100% of those costs.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Any discussion? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
Okay. The next item of business is to consider ordinance number O-1355. I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Would you please read by title?
All in favor of the motion to
Oh,
suspend?
all in favor of the motion to read by title, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
Ordinance O-1355, an ordinance approving C4 Regional Commercial Open Display Zoning for 1.60 acres at 115 Blackhawk and amending the future land use map and designating the area regional commercial and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you now entertain a motion, a second to adopt, and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Selman, would you explain that?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Kathy Selman, Planning and Development Director. Pleased to be here tonight with the first of 4 requests to rezone property in the city of Hot Springs. One of the first signs of things picking up and new development ideas sprouting around the city is often a request to rezone land that has been underutilized for a long period of time. And tonight we have 4 of them. We have alligators, we have motorcycles, we have a church, and we have medical services. And I think that kind of sums up Hot Springs. So we are seeing a rebound on all fronts. The first one that we have tonight is a request to adopt an ordinance approving C4 Regional Commercial Open Display zoning on 1.06 acres at 115 Blackhawk. The applicant and owner of this property is Tim Winston. The land is contiguous to the Martin Luther King Jr. Expressway. It's access from Airport Road. At this time, it is the site of some disused, kind of abandoned and in serious disrepair single-family structures, and we have an applicant with an idea for reuse. So this will be the first step if you approve the zoning change to C4. Changing the zoning to C4 would also require an amendment to the future land use plan map, and we would be changing that to linear commercial corridor. This is in Board District 4, by the way. This is the first step. If the zoning change is successful, the second step would be to make application to the building official for any necessary permits, and should any of those uses trigger site plan approval, that would have to go to Planning Commission before a permit could be issued. Planning Commission heard this item, and there is a typo in your staff report here. No, actually there isn't. This was August. They voted 8-0 to recommend approval of the zone change to C4 and the change to the comprehensive plan, future land use plan map, because the requirements for changing the zone have been met.
All right. Are we going to do one at a time? We didn't have anyone signed up. Mr. Winston's here. Thank you for coming. Do you have any questions of Ms. Selman? Did you want to speak?
I'm good. She covered it.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you. Good job, Kathy. Any questions at all for Kathy on this rezone? Okay, hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It's adopted. The next item of business is to consider ordinance number O-1356. I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Council, would you please read by title?
Ordinance O-1356, an ordinance approving C3 office neighborhood commercial zoning to 7.672 acres south of 847 Whittington, Block 4, Lot 1R, Lawrence Addition, and amending the future land use map to designate the area linear commercial corridor and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you now entertain a motion and a second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt and a second?
Second.
Okay, and discussion. There you
Thank
are
you.
again.
Yep. The applicants on this one are James Bridges and Elmer D. Jack Bridges. We're looking for C3 office neighborhood commercial zoning for revised Lot 1 of Block 4 of Lawrence Edition. That's right behind the existing alligator farm and petting zoo. This is one of our oldest tourist attractions. The area behind the alligator farm is the site of the historic Fogle Field, which is now recognized on the Hot Springs Historic Baseball Trail. The Bridges family would like to promote the historic significance of Fogle Field by rehabilitating and restoring the original field. They have big plans for the area, and as funding permits, they will proceed with development on that site. Again, this is the first step in development. If the zone change is successful and there is a need for site plan approval by Planning Commission, that would occur before the building official can issue any building permits on the site. Planning Commission heard this item in August. They voted 8-0 to recommend to you that you adopt this ordinance, changing the zoning to C3 with linear commercial corridor future land use plan map designation because it demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development and zoning, and the change in zoning is consistent with adopted city plans.
Okay. We have one person signed up, Mr. Mark Toth.
Good evening. My name is Mark Toth. I'm president of the Whittington Valley Neighborhood Association. Thank you. I know it's been a long meeting, so I'll keep this short. The neighborhood supports this. It will be good for the neighborhood. It will be preserving and allowing the expansion of an institution that has thrived in the valley for over 100 years. I would ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any discussion, any questions from the board? Or Ms. Selman? Okay, hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It is adopted. The next item of business is consideration of ordinance number O1357. I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So move.
Is there a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Mr. Albritton,
There you go.
would you please read?
1357, an ordinance approving C3 office neighborhood commercial zoning on 15.89 acres known as Lake Valley Community Church at 910 Shady Grove Road, and amending the future land use map to designate the area commercial enclave and for other purposes. That does conclude your reading, Mayor. If you now entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt and a second?
Second.
Okay, and discussion.
Thank you. And now we have the church.
Yes.
This is a request to rezone 15.89 acres at 910 Shady Grove Road, and this is the site of the existing Lake Valley Community Church. The applicants in this actually are the Hot Springs Board of Directors, as this is a direct result of an ordinance annexation initiated earlier this summer by the board. Lake Valley Church is, well, I have to say, has been tremendous to work with, and they're going to make a great addition to the city of Hot Springs. Planning commissioners heard this item, is recommending permanent zoning per the ordinance that you approved. Notice to surrounding properties was provided. They held their hearing, and I would like to correct a typo in your staff report. Planning Commission's vote was 5-0, not 8-0. They are recommending C3 zoning with commercial enclave future land use plan map designation because in that way this would be consistent and compatible with the subject property's location, with existing non-residential uses, and it implements an approved city plan and is consistent with the objectives of the zoning code. Thank you.
Thank you. And we don't have anyone signed up to speak to that. Do we have any questions about this area? Okay, hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It is adopted. The next item of business is consider ordinance number 01358. First of all, I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Would you please read by title?
Ordinance 01358, an ordinance approving C3 office neighborhood commercial zoning to 5.772 acres generally located at 200 and 201 Hollywood Avenue and amending the future land use map to designate the area office center and for other purposes. That concludes your reading. If you now entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Would you please read whatever it is? We're tired.
Yes, I would be happy to do that. You can never be too tired to consider rezoning to expand the excellent medical services available to us
That
in
was
Hot Springs.
good.
So this is an interesting assemblage of lands. It is on both sides of Hollywood and generally located behind the existing National Park Medical Center on Malvern. So this is, again, a proposal for redevelopment, a great sign. Hospital, clinic, and medical offices are conditional uses in the C3 zone district. That's the zone that's being required. The conditional use is something that would need to go to Planning Commission for site plan approval. There are other uses that would not. So in this case, Planning Commission heard this item just last week. They advertised and held their hearing on September 12th to consider C3 zoning with office center future land use plan map designation. They found that it demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development and zoning, that a change in 200 and 201 Hollywood Avenue zoning is consistent with adopted city plans. They voted 5-0 to you that you approve an ordinance making that change to the zoning and to the future land use plan map.
Okay. And we don't have anyone signed up. Do you have any questions for Ms. Selman? Any discussion? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Hearing no discussion, would you please call the roll?
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It is adopted. The next item of business is to consider ordinance number 01359. I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Is there a second? I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Council, would you please read by title?
Ordinance 01359, ordinance waiving the requirements of competitive bidding for the certain professional services, regional wastewater EQ pond liner repair, awarding a contract to Plastic Fusion Fabricators, Inc., and for other purposes. That concludes the reading. If you now entertain a motion and a second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Gary
Okay,
Carnahan,
thank you.
City Engineer. A very important part of our regional wastewater treatment plant is the overflow equalization basin that we use in times of heavy rains. And it's lined to prevent pollution into the groundwater. Earlier this year, when it was normally it's dry, so that we have a capacity for the rain. And during one of those times when it was dry, during a heavy windstorm that we had, it lifted that liner up and tore it and made a big, cause a huge repair that we need to make. Fortunately, we have insurance to cover a portion of that. So the city will have to pay about $27,000. The insurance company about $29,000. We're asking tonight that you waive competitive bidding because we would like to use the same company to repair the liner that installed the liner so that the materials and everything are the same. So we're asking for your approval to award this to Plastic Fusion Fabricators.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And do you have any questions of Mr. Carnahan? Okay. Thank you. Hearing no discussion, would you please call the roll?
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It is adopted. The next item to consider is ordinance number 01360. I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Would you please read by title only?
Ordinance 01360, an ordinance prohibiting certain commercial displays and for other purposes. That concludes the reading, Mayor. If you would now entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt?
So move.
Okay. Is there a second? And any discussion? You want to present that one to us,
I'll be happy
sir?
to, Mayor. This matter comes to you initiated from a request from members of the board having to do with a relatively publicized issue that's been in the newspapers, radio, and so forth. The discussion on this matter is that the City of Hot Springs is a family-friendly tourist destination. Tourists and members of the community have expressed displeasure with the display of certain merchandise visible to minors. The purpose of this ordinance is not to prohibit the sale of merchandise protected under the First Amendment, but rather to restrict the display of plainly offensive merchandise and to prohibit the display of same to those under the age of 18 by enacting an articulated community standard. This proposed ordinance is modeled after one passed by the City of Orange Beach, Alabama earlier this year. I would be happy to entertain any questions should the board have any.
Okay. Do you have any questions concerning this one? Anyone?
I don't, but I just a comment that about 2 weeks ago, there was an outdoor display outside of it. And so there were other items in plain view that might not go quite so far as you, but they're still offensive. So I think maybe someone needs to visit with them about what kind of things should be up for public view. and
We're
it's
going to
not.
pass an ordinance.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to go into
Yeah.
detail here, but
Yeah.
it was in plain view.
Yeah, and it was on the sidewalk, like a sidewalk sale?
It was about, it was items pertaining to bodily functions.
Yes, okay. Okay, any questions, any other comments? Hearing none, would you please
May
call the
I
roll?
just
Oh,
ask,
yes, you may.
who's going to enforce this? Who's going to
Exactly.
talk to the businesses that are doing this?
I think that was in the packet
Yeah,
also.
it actually would authorize either neighborhood services or the police department to do that directly. And I would imagine that the city manager, through his department heads, will delegate those duties appropriately.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Pat, he's just smiling. Okay. Okay, please call the roll in a hurry.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It is adopted. And I want to thank Mr. Albright because he put a lot of work into that and did make it very fair and reasonable. And thank you for the time you spent to write that.
All Britain.
All Britain, yes. Okay.
Let's change that.
The next item of business is to consider ordinance number 01361. I will suspend the rules and read by title only. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Council, would you please read by title?
Ordinance 01361, an ordinance accepting MAPCO Drive in Hot Springs located in 143S 20 West, unplatted subdivision as a city street and for other purposes. That concludes your reading. If you now entertain a motion and a second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
So move.
Is there discussion? I mean, a second. Okay. Yeah, and I want to just take a second before you explain this to us and welcome the night has gone on so far, I forgot your name, but Mr. Mapco himself is here from Nashville, Tennessee, and he has sat through this whole night waiting on this one item. And you want to come up and just tell us your name, and we just want to tell you we very much appreciate your long trip and coming here, and we appreciate Mapco.
My drive was about the same as your night tonight. So.
I am so sorry.
No, it's all right.
Driving real fast.
Yeah, quick vote for you.
Yeah, I think we could have been in Nashville. I'm so sorry. We hope you have a good stay.
It's always a learning experience. My name is Neil Weber. I'm the development manager for MAPCO. So my job is to get these through planning and permitting. So this is kind of one of the steps in making sure that this site will work for us in our development at Lakeshore and Airport Road. And just as a slight amendment to the ordinance, I think while we're showing it as MAPCO Drive, I think we'd actually like to call it Lakeshore Drive just for simplicity's sake. I think we'll lean away from that vain attempt at getting our own street at this moment. After a few more stores in Hot Springs, we might accept that honor, but for now we'll just call it Lakeshore Drive.
Okay, and we are recruiting more stores, so we've got him hooked with Mr.
We'd like to build more, so.
Yes, we're going to find another spot. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Okay, now, Denny.
Thank you, Mayor, Board of Directors, Denny McFate, Public Works Director. Staff's recommendation is to approval of a willingness to accept a proposed street that meets certain conditions for city maintenance of the street. MAPCO is requesting board approval of a proposed new street at a new proposed store location, as he mentioned, at the intersection of Lakeshore Drive and Airport Road, Highway 70 South. MAPCO's closing of the property hinges on the availability to have a signalized entry and exit to their new proposed business. Arkansas Highway and Transportation Department does not allow signalized entry or exits specifically to business driveways, and will not only allow a signalized intersection if it's a city street. MAPCO is prepared to dedicate the right of way to the city and build a new street to city specifications. Staff's recommends approval effective upon the following 6 conditions. The first condition is Highway Department permit approval, building approval and construction of a new convenience store and the construction of the new street, thereby meeting city specifications, filing of the deed of dedication of the public right-of-way with the land office within Garland County. MAPCO is to fund and install a traffic signal head on the proposed MAPCO Drive side of Lakeshore and Airport. They're to provide necessary traffic signal cabinet modifications for the new signal heads. They're also required to complete a traffic count and delivery of a traffic signal timing plan capable of being integrated in our city's tactics traffic coordination server. As I mentioned previously with the Oaklawn intersection, we would require the same at this one, so it would be coordinated with the other signals. Any questions? There's no cost to the city.
Okay. Any questions? Pat, that's going to be one you'll have to stop by every night for milk.
No, it's great. I think this is a great improvement. We've had stores there in the past, but because of the signalization, it was real challenging right there. And so this is a good thing.
Yes.
Very good.
That property's been vacant for way too long.
We're going to try to fill up all the vacant properties with MAPCOs, okay? So those convenience stores with a little deli, and we'll do that.
That one like on Central Avenue?
Yes. Isn't
yellow,
yeah,
the green
the
and
new
yellow?
one? Yes, up on the hill.
Wow.
With fresh fruits and vegetables. Yes,
I heard about
I
the
know.
produce.
Okay, this is free advertising. Okay. Do we have any questions?
Tonight's board meeting brought to you by MAPCO.
Thank you, thank you.
Tired. That's how you act when you get tired.
Okay, would you please call the roll?
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
Okay, it is adopted. You've got your street. Thank you, thank you. And do something fun in the city before you go back to Nashville. We have a wonderful place for you to enjoy. Okay, the next item of business is to consider ordinance number 01362. I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Is there a second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Brian, would you please read the ordinance by title?
Ordinance 01362, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 3286, adopting new procedures for review of traffic control requests and/or needs and for other purposes. That concludes the reading. If now entertain a motion and a second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Is there a second? Okay, and discussion. Oh, all in favor, please say aye.
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 It's your turn.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. Denny McFady again, Public Works Director. Staff recommends repealing ordinance number 3286 and adopting new procedures for the review of traffic control requests and/or needs. With the intended disbanding of the Public Safety Committee, PSC, a new committee is needed to hear and review traffic control requests and needs. The new committee will review only traffic-related issues and make recommended changes and modifications to the Board of Directors for their approval per state law. This ordinance gives the city manager the authorization to appoint a traffic review committee consisting of the Public Works Director, the Traffic Division Manager, and any other such individual that he or she may name in the future. Besides establishing a traffic review committee, the other changes to the ordinance are a revision to the penalty clause that just brings it current with all other city ordinances in the generic penalty clause. This one had an old outdated clause, so it would be updating it just like our other ones. A petition for parking change requests will be established that will require 60% of the households in the affected neighborhood to sign for a petition for parking changes before they would be reviewed. For purposes of clarification, affected neighborhood means all households located or situated in proximity to the proposed change location, such that the most convenient direction of travel from the household to the nearest highway, arterial street, or major collector would require that the residents therefore routinely traverse the proposed area of change. And those are the only requirements. This basically would end up dissolving PSC. You would no longer have a PSC report come to you every board meeting. But what we would do, because state law only allows the board to make traffic changes like one way or reducing traffic, speed limits and speed humps and those kind of things, the review committee would gather up those and bring them to you on an as-needed basis. If it's once every 2 weeks, once a month, we'd still bring it back to the board because you're the governing approval body per state law.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
How would this impact something already in process? And, for example, our meeting with the Trivista Circle, and they didn't prepare a petition for change, but they have that process. And
once this is established, Director, the city manager will make his decision on whether he's going to probably, I would guess, add someone from PD and at least someone from fire department. We wouldn't meet like we do every 2 weeks with Public Safety Committee. We'd do it by either phone or email. And individually take a look at the matters at hand, and then get back together either by phone or email and discuss it and come together with a conclusive recommendation to forward to the board. We just wouldn't physically meet in this room twice a month.
I think what she's asking
But
is
she was about the petition.
no, the petition for parking
65%.
change. So, like with their request on Trivista, we've met with them. They had a community meeting, and we have the letters going out that by the end of this month they're supposed to have all those surveys back. Now, that's in process. Does that require them to prepare a petition as well?
No, ma'am, I wouldn't think so. I think our city attorney would have to rule on that. Brian, would you?
Their request has already been made, and so their request is on file. This ordinance would not take effect for 30 days after first date of publication. So that request will follow the old process. Granted, PSC may not meet as a body like it previously did, and so the city manager's committee may be the one that actually reviews it, but they will not be required to go back and submit petitions under the new rules and regulations set out.
And affected neighbor is defined as all households located and situated in proximity to proposed change location.
Yes, ma'am, that their major method of travel would be on that street from their house to the nearest collector or arterial highway, which would be like there on Central, going to Central. So the city attorney and I did talk about this. Trivista left and Trivista right would be a little bit different because, I mean, where do you stop at? I mean, you've got people as far back as Hollywood that come out that way going to town. That's something we'd have to deal with on an individual basis.
Okay.
Okay.
I got you.
You have other questions? Is that okay?
Yes, and this is currently what the city of Little Rock is doing. That was what they're doing. That we pattern ours after.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It is adopted. The next item of business is to consider ordinance. How come you waited till tonight to put every ordinance we've got on one night? We had some of those were 15 minutes long. Here we go. Remember those?
Pins were provided by Botany 500.
Okay, here we go. The next item of business is to consider ordinance O-1363. I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? I have.
Waiting on the other side.
Okay, wake up.
Your turn. Second.
I'll second it too.
We've reached our quota of ordinances.
You're ordinanced out.
We're ordinanced out. Somebody give us a second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Okay. Mr. Bryan, would you please read by title only?
Ordinance 01363, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 3757 as amended, adopting new procedures for review of truck routes. And for other purposes, that concludes your reading. If you now entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to? Oh, and a second. Do I have a second? There we go. And Mr.
Denny McFay.
Denny McFay, would you please tell us about the truck routes?
Thank you, Mayor. Staff's recommendation is to repeal Ordinance 3757, which authorizes the Public Safety Committee that was even worded back then. That was the Public Safety Committee of the Hot Springs City Council. That tells you how old it was. As the authority for establishing truck routes and or removal of such per Hot Springs Book of Codes, Chapter 8, truck routes. Ordinance 3855, Section 1 remits this authority to the Hot Springs Board of Directors. With the previous agenda item that was approved, a traffic review committee will replace PSC to hear and review truck route requests and needs and make those recommendations to the Board of Directors for its approval. There are no other changes to the ordinance.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
No, but I'd just like to say maybe this will help open Belding Street all the way to Melbourne Road. We've been trying to do that for 10 years.
A new truck route.
So the trucks could leave from wherever they were coming from and go straight through and not go through that neighborhood.
Exactly. So
that's-
we'll have to talk to whoever does the truck routes to get us one. Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It is adopted. The next item of business is to consider ordinance number O-1364. First of all, I will entertain a motion to, and second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Bryan, would you please read by title?
I think that was a motion to adjourn. Ordinance 01364, an ordinance amending the Hot Springs Parade and Special Events Ordinance, ordinance number 5549, as amended by changing final administrative approval authority for parades and special events request and for other purposes. That concludes the reading. If you now entertain a motion to second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion? In a second. Please read.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff's recommendation is to approve amending Ordinance 5549. The ordinance will amend sections 3, 5, 6, and 7 by replacing the word Board of Directors with the city manager name as the final approval authority, and that's the only change.
Okay. Do we have any questions? And the parade is coming up in December.
Yes.
That's an announcement. Okay. Please call the roll.
Folly.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It is adopted. The next item of business is to consider ordinance number 01365. I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
A second. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And would you all oppose? No? Okay.
Read it.
Read it, please.
Ordinance 01365, an ordinance authorizing amendments to the budget of the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas for the year 2013 and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. Entertain a motion and second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please read or present it to us, please.
Bill Burrow, Deputy City Manager, filling in for Ms. Shates tonight. Hopefully I can answer any of the questions you may have. This is basically our mid-year adjustments. We typically, procedurally, would have brought these to you a little bit sooner in the year. However, with some of the items that we had our work session that you'll recall. These are those changes that we discussed during that work session and a lot of work from several of the department heads. I will draw your attention to a couple of the major items. A couple of these adjustments, one of the, I guess the largest adjustment that we have is in the airport fund, and that was a reduction in fuel sales, offset by the reduction of fuel supplies, the purchase of fuel. So that was the largest adjustment that we had in this budget. It was about $900,000. We also had an adjustment in the water of about $400,000 for reduction of sale of water, and that's due to a much milder summer this year. All of these were able to be covered within that water fund revenues. In addition, we added about $400,000 for line improvements, and these are line improvements addressing some of our loss issues that we've discussed. We found it prudent to go ahead and add this money because the fund is doing real well. We were ahead of schedule on our line improvements, and instead of waiting till next year to embark on additional improvements, we went ahead and are asking the board to make that $400,000 adjustment so we can continue line improvements as we move forward. And finally, in our general fund, we had an adjustment of about $225,000. However, $185,000 of that was due to retirements that we were not aware of at the beginning of the year when we set the budget. And additionally, a couple of other things. We had a $14,000 election. We had a chiller at the School for Math and Science that was $44,000. And then a fire truck that came in about $50,000 over budget. So all of those things kind of compounded some of the major items. There were some of the smaller miscellaneous items that I won't go into each detail. We did that at your work session, but those are the highlights of the major changes that you'll see in this mid-year budget. And again, it's a procedural matter that we do every year. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Do you have a question? Director Garcia?
Yeah. Earlier this year, we approved a reorganization change that you brought before us with the utilities and some changing around in positions. At that time, why wasn't the pay grade change that's included in Schedule A included and brought to us at that time?
Some of the pay grade changes that we had as we moved through that process, we did not know exactly where that would have fallen out. We had not ran that through our JSAT model at that time. As we did so, I mean, the change took effect. I mean, you approved the positions back then. However, at that time, we had not done the JSAT model and have gone through that process to see what that position would have paid. And we did so during that time, and the position has paid what the JSAT model says, like every position that we have within the city. So I guess my answer to that is we didn't have that information at that time as we looked at that reorganization. Typically what we focused on there was the reorganization of the department itself, and when those responsibilities were added to our assistant city manager, we ran those functions and job duties through that JSAT model, and it did require a change in classification at that time.
So is that classification just now going into effect? It's not back to the first of the year?
There is some retro into that. However, we had to get the adjustment into the budget. I will say that move that we're discussing was a positive impact to our general fund. Those costs that we're discussing were actually picked up through our utility administration because the largest majority of that change was moving our municipal customer operations from a general fund department oversight to, well, it would still be, I guess, our general fund oversight. However, we're moving it from one location, which was finance, over to our assistant city manager. However, those costs are allocated back to our municipal customer operations of utilities, water, and wastewater, because that's our billing system. There's a little bit that goes to sanitation, a little bit that goes to stormwater. It's basically everything on the utility bill. And as we look at those costs are allocated each one of those utilities based on a percentage.
So that one had a little over a 45% salary increase, and 60% is in the general fund, 30% in utilities, and 10% in the airport fund. Is that that allocation, percentage allocation based on time?
It's based on number of employees.
Number of employees in
Yes.
each of those areas?
In each one, it's the percentage of our assistant city manager's payroll is based on the number of employees that report directly to him. A portion of that is airport, a portion of that is municipal customer operations. All of those employees are enterprise fund employees, and that percentage is charged back to the water, wastewater, sanitation, stormwater, and airport, because there's a function of that that comes from that billing operation. The other portions of it is the city clerk responsibilities here at City Hall, as well as our occupation license that we have in finance that fall under his authority level as well. When you looked at his prior pay, it was 100% out of the general fund. But as we moved some enterprise fund responsibilities to him and went through these calculations and these percentages, it was actually a positive impact to the general fund. However, we did pick up some additional cost on the utility side. However, for us to achieve the goals that we're looking for with a better model for our customer service operations, and I'm going to say a more focused oversight on our meter division, meter maintenance, census, our automated meters, AMI. We think that we're going to have additional savings as we focus or have additional focuses on those functions that we didn't have before, which is the whole purpose for going through the reorganization and moving that municipal customer operations. We're just a few months into it. I think we've already seen some positive impact. However, we still got a ways to go, but we are progressing as we committed to.
And the BARF says that this would, with what we had budgeted from the fund balance, this would bring it over $1 million out of our fund balance. And then we had $1 million financing to balance our budget as well.
We started off with $731,000, and there were some additional changes that brought it up to almost $800,000. And yes, this would bring that over $1 million that we have budgeted. We still think we'll come in under that. I mean, history tells us that we budget to come in. We budget for the worst and perform to the best. Yeah. We think we'll come in under these numbers. However, based on our budget model, that's what it does indicate. But as we moved into this, we were already $800,000 under. And again, the majority of this change that you see, this $224,000, $185,000 of that was retirement.
Yeah.
You know, the other $40,000 is really incremental when you look at the size of the budget.
But it's your expectation, as you said, based on performance and expectation on history, that we would come in better than this amount.
That is, if we are consistent with history, yes.
Well, then I would move to amend Schedule A to reflect this pay grade change to not come from fund balance, but from the discretion of the city manager from any of the other items as he's been given in the previous approval this evening.
I'm not sure I understand that, Director Garcia. The impact to the general fund is positive. It's a positive impact to the general fund with this change.
This is going to require
The additional expense of the additional expense is from the enterprise funds.
But we're taking it from fund balances.
Not what you're referring to.
We're
taking retirements out of fund balances.
With 30% utilities, 10% airport.
The 60% that is being charged to general fund is a reduction from what it was before, because prior you had 100% of that position charged to the general fund. What you're seeing in the increases comes primarily from the retirements that we had, not the change of classification from that position. That change of classification on that position was a positive impact to the general fund of about somewhere around $2,200, $2,400.
But we're taking out of fund balance from the other funds.
It's being allocated to the other funds, yes. The 40% that we're allocating to enterprise funds.
Yes.
And the 60% that we're continuing to allocate to the general fund. That 60% allocation is about $2,200 less than what was charged to the general fund before.
Okay, but we're charging it to the utilities and
That is correct.
the airport.
That is correct. And a little bit of sanitation, a little bit to stormwater. It's based, some of the municipal customer operations when it comes to billing get further allocated, but basically his salary is 30% municipal customer operations, 10% airport, 60% general fund.
I just don't want us to be budgeting salaries out of our fund balances.
And we are not. We're actually giving a positive impact to your fund balance with this move.
You're talking about the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
But you're taking it out of the other fund balances. We have to be taking it out of the fund balance based on what's listed in.
There's a number of things.
I think I might be able to just help here. I guess what the question is that the enterprise funds are standalone funds, and they're going to absorb 40% of the salary.
Yes.
And so that is a new expenditure for that enterprise fund. And so the question is are we taking it from the fund balance of the enterprise fund, not the general fund?
Right.
Or should we allow the city manager to move funds from the sub-accounts or the accounts within that fund to make up the difference? And I think that's where the question is, because earlier tonight we allowed some flexibility there for the city manager, but I think that's where Director Garcia is coming from.
Yeah, that is correct. We have allocations all the way through about everything we do. And all of those at some point, if that fund is not self-supportive, it comes out of fund balance. Typically, though, we are in pretty good shape in our utility funds, our sanitation fund, and our stormwater fund. So we should still be coming in, at a pretty good level there.
Let me make one last comment. I appreciate Director Garcia's comments, and what she says has merit, but at the same time, I'm not sure, at 10 minutes to 10, that we're going to figure this out. I think we have policies in place where the city manager tomorrow morning could sit and utilize the new policies that we approved tonight to do that very thing, but to approve the changes as presented by staff will balance the budget appropriately, move the funds appropriately, and then let David and his staff manage. I appreciate Director Garcia's due diligence in this, but I think we could approve this tonight as is and allow David and his staff to utilize the tools we approved earlier tonight to manage, as you say.
If it's approved as is, it doesn't require it
Right.
to be balanced without taking money out of the fund balance of the enterprise funds.
But if we have confidence in David, I think the sense is that we're asking him to do that.
Can I clarify your request? As I'm understanding the discussion, Director Garcia is asking, maybe, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm understanding that you are supportive of the action, but how it's accounted for is different. One is you assign those costs to the other funds, which is an absolute increase in spending, whereas if you keep it in the general fund, he can find a way to take it out of some other fund, so it's not an increase in spending.
Yeah.
We haven't changed the budget then.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I understand it now.
We and I will say that
Got it.
some of this is an increase in spending this year, with the goal of decreasing our overall cost in future years. For us to be able to reach the efficiencies that we need to reach, we had to make some changes, and it's going to come at a cost initially for us to be able to achieve what in the long term should be a reduction in cost.
I don't think anybody's questioning that, Bill. I think it's a matter of, if you've given the city manager the authority to spend the money and stay in budget, go spend the money if you need to and find other places in the budget to take it away from. So we don't have a net cost increase to the city. That's my understanding.
Do you think it would be a wise thing for us to put this on hold and discuss it a little bit more so that you understand and are very clear? I mean, I don't know what the urgency is on us passing it tonight. Can we?
These are mid-year changes that have already transpired. Some of these.
Already done it.
Yeah,
There's no
some of
backing
these
up.
other things are on hold, and we're basically not able to do some work because we're waiting to get this passed. I mean, you know, we've with all due respect, we've been working on this for months. We need to try to either pull it off or pull something out of it or get some of this approved.
Yeah, we're trying to implement a strategic budget. At the same time, we're trying to adhere to an arcane way to budget. And so, you know, the reason why we're having such a confusing discussion is because of the current format of our budget, which I want to change radically. But I do need authority to operate within our current system to accomplish the reorganization and the other elements of our strategic plan that we need to move forward on. And so I don't want to see us get bogged down in the minutia and the processes. You know, I'm trying to get us focused on the outcome.
Words now.
Call for the question,
Dictionary.
please.
We have a call for a question. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Davidson.
Do I have to get a second on that?
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
I have an exception to the part I mentioned. So do you have to vote entirety, or can I?
Up, down, or abstain?
Then no.
Foley.
Aye.
Carney.
I think I'll go with a no, too.
5-2.
Right. Okay. That concludes the business section of tonight's meeting, and we have time for comments of any of our board members. Do you have comments that you need to make?
I know you wish I wasn't going to say anything, but
Yeah.
for the
I'm going to time
for
you.
the public, okay, I'll take 1 minute. For the public, when you think about the long-term history that some of the companies in this community have, National Park Medical Center, Alligator Farm, Oak Lawn, the museum, where the hotels are new, All of those are embarking on major capital project. If you include the jail, which I hope doesn't ever get to be classified as a tourist attraction, we're looking at capital improvement projects without the hotels of about $75 million. Those are real jobs in this community, and as Kathy Selman said, I think we're experiencing some real spurt in growth, and that's encouraging.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Now,
Anyone?
Mayor, you know,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
voted for this because we discussed that before I left. I haven't been gone that long, have I?
No, while you were
I mean, we
sleeping.
discussed in a work session with the city manager's authority.
Yeah.
And I understood it after you kind of made it plain. You and Pat, sometimes it takes a while when it comes to all this money for me, because I. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Any comments? Okay, this concludes the business section. And
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, just a second. Immediately following, unless he went away, we have I'm lost. Immediately following, we have an open comment for anyone to speak that signed up already. And there being no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I did that.
Okay. Second. In a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned, and we have to turn off the lights and